We're going to start off with Johnny's one cycling revolution. Should we call ours two cycling?
Oh, I like it. Yeah. So the reintroduction of national teams.
Right.
The 2-week Vuelta a España, 2-week Giro d'Italia, 3-week Tour de France begins on Saturday, July 12th, ends on Sunday, August 3rd. We still get Bastille Day.
Do they have to do all these?
Each team is linked to a World Tour event in their country. The draft system, which is fed by the development squads. We're going to change the finish lines of a lot of races, right? Okay. We're gonna build massive banks of seats. Quidditch World Cup vibes.
We're going to start off with Johnny's one cycling revolution. For anybody who's just stepping into this podcast for the first time, Dane, can you give me like a 10-15 second up to speed on where we're at with one cycling right now and what it is?
Yeah, it's a project. Is that a good word to describe this? Maybe.
Yeah.
Spearheaded by teams, particularly by Richard Plugger, who runs the Visma Lisa Bike Squad, to empower the teams and the riders and change the sport along the way, hoping to maybe wrest some of that power away from the organizers.
We should have more details on this thing pretty soon because it sounds like it is close. Now, through all of this, because we don't know exactly what it looks like, it leaves some room for us to make things up and guess, which is exactly what you have done, Johnny.
Yep, I would say that's one of my key 5 things that I bring to Escape Collective. Where I'll begin is the aims, right? Because that's something that's been lacking from the real one cycling. Is there any sort of aims beyond money?
Should we call ours two cycling?
Oh, I like it. Two cycling. Is that too close to 2 speed cycling though?
No.
Ooh.
3 cycling? Should we go for 3 cycling?
I think no. We're just one
2.
more.
Okay,
we're 2 cycling.
One of you guys can have 3 cycling at a later date.
Yeah.
Okay. So aim number 1: increased sporting coherence and competitiveness. I've used like big words in this. It's not just. This isn't just this isn't just a newsletter with lots of one-syllable phrases after another. So a more logical calendar that builds narrative and intrigue throughout the season, through the introduction of a draft system, salary cap and trades, as well as reintroducing national teams.
Heck yeah.
Aim number 2. This is one that probably is more within one cycling, but 2 cycling is building on the one that came before it, right? Grow the sport in terms of eyeballs, make it more sustainable and more equally distributed. So obviously we're aiming as part of this, making the sport more competitive will hopefully result in bigger audiences for both the tour and for the other races. It involves, rejigging the streaming rights, figuring out other, marketing bits, the idea of how the rights to, social media content, video, and like events surrounding the races. The third point, increased sustainability and fairness. So we're going to improve green credentials. And the way we're going to try and do this is by gamifying them. Because a lot of the time, I think if you ask any of us, we'd say we care about the environment. We want like a world for like our grandkids, kids or whatever. But the problem is we also all, still drive cars. We still eat meat. We still do bad things, right? That's the whole problem with the world today. So we're going to try and appeal to sort of the apes inside of us who just, like to play games and have to be led down very narrow paths to do the right thing. And the second part is to, try and build out these teams to be more than just poster boards for advertisers, because then that increases, job security and eventually revenue. Because one of the major pushbacks from the 2 cycling revolution will be it's going to probably result in a bit of a recession at the start for both teams and riders, which will be deeply unpopular. But look, the thought experiment means that doesn't matter.
These are our aims. We have good aims. I think we have good aims. Let's break them down. So where do we start? By the way, if you want to read this, it's on the website.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Hopefully it'll be out by the time you're listening to this. Yeah. So the reintroduction of national teams. The reason this has been a big thing of mine for a while, right? I've been into this idea for a while. So for better or worse, here's the evidence for why we need to have national teams, or at least we need to do away with the teams we have now. Would you like to guess where on the list of biggest sports leagues by revenue on Wikipedia, the Tour de France sits? Which place and what it sits in between?
Sports leagues by revenue.
Estimating that the Tour is about 100 million euros in annual revenue. So where in terms of sports leagues? Because I think the Tour with 21 days of racing, I think you can call that a league, right?
So this question, we're saying that like EPL and La Liga are two separate leagues.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're in like the 30s or 40s.
Okay.
I would think it's lower than that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's got to be like, I don't know.
Because it's probably like
60s,
yeah.
70s.
It's their 66th place
Ooh.
in
Ouch.
between the German Handball League and the Croatian National Football League.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a disgrace.
Yeah. That's not great.
That is
I
a
mean,
disgrace.
This is why this is the if we return to one cycling, this is what they've identified as
Yes.
as an opportunity, right?
Yes, exactly. Buy low, sell high. What links all of the other leagues together is that there is some level of geographical basis to the leagues, right? There's a reason to care about the league and to care about the teams. Now, a lot of them are obviously national leagues, or some of them that are weirdly big are like it's like some sort of motor racing in maybe Poland. Which I think is like more just that's always existed there and it's been big. It's not like they like across the country love it. Anyway, we can't do domestic cycling. Well, some people do it now and have tried to, National Cycling League. Remember that? That's really hard to do. And the sport's probably not big enough for that. So what instead, you go a bit more macro, bring back the national teams that we had.
Yeah.
They all compete. You get behind the best riders from your country. The way this would work, let me scroll down. At the moment, a lot of teams are already kind of separated like that a bit, like your Groupama FDJs, your Movistars, but then you have like, Visma Lease a Bike have kind of shifted away from being Dutch. Like that was a story about a month ago or a few weeks ago that the Tour de France squad this year will have no Dutch riders. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also don't care because they're like, well, people want to see us win. The Ineos Grenadiers. How many chapeaux are shared on a daily basis within the Ineos Grenadiers camp at the minute?
Nowhere near enough.
Definitely not as many as about 10 years ago.
Nope.
So what we're going to do is, in the new World Tour, the existing squads can apply for their country's World Tour license.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, so and you can have more than one. So like we're not going to get rid of all the French teams or the Belgian teams, but what happens is that each team is linked to a World Tour event in their country. So it's kind of we've bundled them together.
So I like it. So we need an event in America then. We need to
at the
restart
moment,
the Tour de Trump.
At the moment, I've got a 1-day tour of California. Start off small.
Okay.
There's a race in Maryland. We got a 1-day race in Maryland.
You could have that.
Yeah.
You could have that.
Yeah.
But then you can have that if you want. I mean, Tour of California just gives a bit more pop. No disrespect to Maryland.
Just put them all in Unbound.
Yeah, or the gravel lot would love that.
I was just gonna say, I think some people would love it, some people wouldn't.
We're gonna have, this is a point I'm not sure on. We're gonna have some sort of national quota. We have this in the English Premier League to some extent, where you have to have a number. It's quite a small number, but you have to have a number of homegrown players,
like homegrown players or whatever it is.
Yeah, homegrown players. Yeah, so
you're Trent Alexander-Arnold's.
Yeah, and anyone. And to be honest, a lot of football teams find ways around that, right? Like a lot of the Brazilian stars got Spanish passports to count as Spanish players for Barcelona and Real Madrid back in the day.
And a lot of like really old English goalkeepers are getting.
Yeah, they have the best lives because they just back up other guys and get paid a lot of money for it. Yeah. But that's like a minor point, I think. But the main point will be the draft system, which is fed by the development squads, which each team / nation has to have filled with 18 to 21-year-olds. Another point, this doesn't mean we don't have commercial sponsors, but just that they can still be titled like Groupama FDJ, but they are the French team. And it probably will lend itself to big company from country sponsors.
You would hope.
Team, right? You'd hope.
Yeah.
So the age of 21, they sort of graduate out of the development team after, racing the Junior Tour de France for a few years, other ones. And then your ECI points per year dictate your pick in the draft. Then the first round of the draft, you have to pick a rider from your own country.
Ooh.
to make it so that sort of, the best Italian guy goes to the Italian team.
How many
keep it like that.
countries? Like, it's not all countries, obviously.
It's not all countries. So then
Do
basically
we
what
even
you
get
have
to
is
play?
America will get to play because you got EF and then Little Trek as well, who I think are a
Right.
bit less American, but
Yeah.
in terms of identity. And then in the pro team level basically becomes where you have like a couple more of these like smaller French or Belgian squads, but you also have like, I don't know, let's say, Japanese team or some
So
of
it's a
the
hybrid system
smaller
you've got
ones.
here, Johnny.
And there's promotion, relegation.
Yeah. Okay.
After the first round, draft proceeds as normal. You just have to like keep an eye on your quota. So like if there is like a new Tadej Pogacar guy out there, or whatever, like he can still not end up on the team of his country. And also you get to do the franchise tag system. So like when the deals are up, you can kind of keep your star guy. We basically what we wanted to do here between people caring about the national teams and increasing the the sporting parity is take the best bits from soccer and from American football. Best thing from soccer is like the historicalness of the clubs that it's formed around communities of people and that people really care. The best thing from like the NFL and a lot of the major leagues is how competitive they are, the turnover and who dominates, and that
Lots
you
of
can go
snack
from
breaks.
being lots of snack breaks. Yep. That will be in, maybe that's 3. We'll save that for 3 cycling.
More pizza.
But yeah, we want competitive sort of, an almost basically a communist league, right? Because that's what makes the most exciting. But we also
That's what Americans have done. It's like the one
Our
place
sports league
where
are the best for that reason.
we're super into anti-capitalist
But then you move teams from city to city. That's where it all falls down. That's in a bit of the sucks, really.
Can I back us up a little bit?
Yeah.
So if we are doing this, if it's by nations here, the top 20 nations would make sense, right? Like by UCI ranking or something.
Yeah, but then like you've got say 2 or 3 French teams or 2 or 3 Belgian teams, right? Because like you've got like the Tour of Flanders,
right?
Gem, or like for France you've got the Tour de France Pyrenees, the Dauphiné, races that will remain French and stay in the World Tour. So then it kind of fits there where the number of teams fits the number of races. Then it just ties in that way. It's a bit hodgepodge, but
if we look at last year, the ones that would be on the edge.
Okay.
Austria, 20th.
Okay.
So again, if there's a couple French teams, you probably only actually have 15 nations.
Yeah.
Or so.
Well, just having World Tour races anyway. So
Eritrea is 15th. New Zealand, Ecuador, Portugal.
Wow.
Ireland, Austria. Yeah, there'd be a bunch of sort of relatively big cycling countries that would be on the edge of that. Belgium, France, Spain. Those are Italy's still up there. Netherlands, Slovenia, Great Britain, Australia, Denmark, United States is the top 10.
Ooh, GB's up there. That's good for them.
GB's up there. Yeah, they're still higher than us.
We're trying.
Yeah. I like this idea. I've said before that I really like the idea of national teams in general, which again, to remind everybody, used to be how the Tour de France was run. Right back in the day, that's how it went down.
It's also a particularly, maybe not Euro thing, but like internationally, national teams are a really big thing in a way that I feel like American sports cares less about them.
Oh, the other thing that I should probably clarify is that obviously a lot of this is also going to apply to the women's peloton, but the thing that I set out to not do in this article is, as a bloke, tell the women in women's cycling how to run their sport. So I'm not saying like I think all of this works for the women's side of it, and holding events concurrently would work well. Sharing the resources, that sort of thing. Like, because often when you're at a bike race, there's not a lot to actually see, especially when it's only a men's race on that day. So adding another one in makes it a bit more complicated with policing. But
I think the Flanders Classics model there is
exactly.
probably what we'd be looking for, right? Which is like Flanders itself, for example, is really cool because you get to watch, like, there's just races all over the place around Oudenaarde for like all day, and men's race goes by, women's race goes by. It's super cool.
They might need to have 3 to 4 Dutch teams if you took this model to the women's peloton. Just a thought.
Yeah, see that's where it gets complicated. But I'm not about to be like Ronde van Drenthe, put it in the bin.
Right.
I'm not nearly close enough, or invest enough in the same way to start making the sweeping changes that I've made in this one. Any complaints so far, Dane, or are you?
I'm in. This is a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got. So let's recap. We got a draft. We got sort of nation-based teams, but not like national teams. So you just have sort of like mostly Americans plus some.
And they have
other
a home
dudes.
race.
Yeah,
and they have a home race.
And
the draft makes sure that each nation's talent should usually go to the nation of their birth. Which a lot of this seems prescriptive, and if you hate your own country, it gets kind of tough. Like there's a Belgian journalist we know who, for some reason, hates Belgium and will root for Italy in every single sporting event. He's an interesting. I love him. He's an interesting guy. So I think he's probably the exception.
I think he's an exception. We can assume people will generally.
I mean, Johnny, were you a big Team Sky fan? Because I feel like a lot of British fans love to hate, the British team.
So I'm gonna come back to the World Tour calendar and like promotion relegation. That's kind of self-explanatory, right? So promotion relegation would just be more involved. You'd care more. A lot more of the wild cards are actually going to go to the teams who are like top of the pro team. So then you actually care about watching those because teams are racing all out for those wild card spots.
It would improve it just to have it every year instead of every 3 years.
Exactly.
Right now.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing as well going back to the national teams is basically what one of the problems at the minute is that cycling in its traditional heartlands is less popular, right? We need to kind of re-energize these bases before we build out, and that would mean that you don't have like basically an Italian team with UAE Team Emirates slapped across the top. Like if UAE want to invest in the sport, great, but you kind of have to do it. You've got to build it you can't just say we're getting more people on bikes. That's what they all say when you go to those races in this country. They give you a presentation. We're getting more people on bikes over, and there's a picture of one kid on a bike, and that's like job done. So it's actually, you've got to invest. You've got to bring them to races. You've got to form part of your team, which would also help with the salary cap thing, right? Because part of the parity is you have to have a salary cap with the draft system, and that's how it's all got to work. You get the off-season drama of trades and who's going to sign what deals. I think that will add to the sport as a whole. And also, like, I know you're taking money out of riders' mouths, but you're only really taking money out of the top guys' mouths, and a lot of them are rich enough, regardless of the salary cap, right? Because they're going to get paid a lot. It would eat at the bottom of the end of it. Less people are professional cyclists, but we're looking at growing it all.
You got to grow the pie.
You got to grow the pie.
It makes a better product. We would hope, and then that would potentially lead to more money. That's the hope, I think. Right?
Grow the pie is apparently a phrase that has been used quite a lot in the actual one cycling discussions. So we can bring it into two cycling as well. Yeah.
The building on what we said about the women's races and the Flanders Classics model, what we're going to try and do is make these World Tour races more than just a race, right? We're going to basically Jerry World each World Tour event. So we're going to have Grand Fondos for sort of every ability age group. If you want to do
which Flanders Classics already
they do already, and it does well. But do that that would be huge in the UK. I'm sure in the US it would be massive. Like if you actually have a proper big event and there's like some sort of leaderboard that goes through all of them. So if you're like retired or just absolutely minted, you can kind of tour around and like race properly, right? All these things. You have like trade shows alongside them for your thing. Yeah, he would love it. You have trade shows alongside of it all. You get all that stuff. Like we're basically building this out. So like there's the weekend or the week that it lands, like Tour Down Under, right? It all centers on that race in that country.
Yep.
We want to do that everywhere.
That would be Jayco Australia's home race, right?
Yep. Exactly.
GDU.
Exactly. Get the camper vans out. Yeah, and he's called Jerry, so that kind of works. We're gonna change the finish lines of a lot of races, right? Okay. Richard Plugger will like this idea. We're gonna do a lot of corporate or paid seating.
Yeah.
But what we're gonna do is we're gonna build massive banks of seats, like Quidditch World Cup vibes, so that you can still go underneath. Like it's like a car park, right? Where the car park's on top of this stuff underneath. There's still free underneath, but like you got to get there early, and that'll be better because you're in the shade. Because often when you're at those finish lines, you got to be there 4 hours early, and the sun is just kicking your ass all day. So we're going to change that. It's going to be like a stadium feel for that final sort of kilometer or 500 meters. We're going to sell that to every Dutch person who's on a Visma Lease bike tour for the day or whatever. We're going to do the Formula One thing of all the streaming in one dedicated package.
I thought you were going to say grid start. Okay.
No, look, I don't want to. With the more avant-garde ideas, I've got to save. I'm going to sneak them in under the table. That's how you do politics. But each country, for their own race, it has to also be shown on free-to-air TV.
Yeah,
This is good. Yeah.
yeah, it's as it absolutely should be.
I've taken inspiration from your calendar last week, Kaylee.
Okay.
And I've split us into 3 distinct parts of the season that all counts towards an overall prize. Okay.
Ooh. How big is the prize?
See, the one bit I haven't broached is who's funding all of this. So until we know,
Saudis,
we're not
the
sure how
Saudis
much
got it.
money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My kingdom for a lack of human rights and accepting
kingdom
that
for
people
the
are allowed
God.
to love who they love.
Qatar,
What about
China.
yeah? Yes,
How about Elon Musk?
Jim Ratcliffe. Jim Ratcliffe.
I feel like
bump
Jim
into
Ratcliffe
him.
is at his wit's end with all his money.
I bump
spent.
into him in West London on a Saturday morning. And
How about one
he's,
of the more? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. I need more billionaires. I couldn't think of any more.
No. How about one of the more the billionaires that less people currently despise? Like, what if we just pick like a Bill Gates?
The Bill and Melinda
Yeah.
Gates Foundation for
Yeah.
cycling.
Yeah.
Is Jeff Bezos still Amazon's kind of bad, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think people love him. I mean, they
don't hate him though.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is that we don't need to actually figure this out. Okay, 3 parts of the season.
Okay.
We've got the early season openers.
Yep.
Cadell's Great Ocean Road Race. I'm not going to say that I've figured out the exact dates. It took me ages, but I'm not going to read dates out to you on a podcast. Okay, we've got Cadell's Tour Down Under, UAE Tour, Tour of Guangxi, a Japan World Tour one dayer, and then a Tour of California World Tour 1 dayer. This runs from the Sunday, January 19th to Saturday, February 15th.
So they do Oceania.
Yes.
Asia,
that's actually
back around to California.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah,
that should have been come up with.
We could put the 1 day in like Hawaii.
If the 1 day's in
halfway
SoCal,
stop.
like the weather's not. I mean, that sounds great.
Haleakala Hill Climb.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah.
That is great. I'm actually going to write that down. I'm going to write that. I'm going to change my article.
Got to dodge the feral chickens though. That are all.
That's
over.
perfect. And then like the fans can dress as feral chickens as well.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah.
Then I've stolen your Classics Cup, Kaylee.
Okay.
Running from Omloop to Paris-Roubaix, Saturday, March 1st to Sunday, April 13th. But
Yep.
we've squeezed in there between Omloop and Strada. San Sebastian is on the Wednesday. Between
Interesting.
Strada Bianche and Milan San Remo, which are 2 weeks apart or a week apart. Oh no, sorry, they're 2 weeks apart.
2 weeks apart.
Slotted in between there is Il Lombardia.
Oh, you're just all the classics. You're just combining.
They're in the Classics
All
Cup.
classic is now okay.
All
yeah,
there.
right.
Yep. Sorry, Leaves.
Yeah.
You don't get your bike race.
Race of the growing leaves.
And then we do normal E3 through to Paris-Roubaix, and then Liège and Amstel Gold Race are tucked in on the Wednesdays. Okay.
Yeah.
Grand Tour season follows.
Oof, that is a block right there. That's racing every 4 days for like 2
There's
months.
racing. There's
like that.
racing.
That's fun.
From Sunday, January 19th, we go.
Right.
The 2-week Vuelta a España, sorry, Dane, begins on Saturday, April 19th
Yeah,
to
I'm
Sunday,
close.
May 4th.
The close
15 stages with 1 rest day.
Ooh, 1 rest day. Yeah. Okay.
1 rest day, 15 stages.
Yeah.
I think
mean, I'm
I
cool
think you
with
could go back. Dane, tell me if I'm wrong. You could go back to the last how many editions of the Vuelta? You could easily cull 6 stages.
I'm fine with this. I actually think you can do it with the Giro as well.
Funny you say that. After the Vuelta, kicking off on the day that it finishes, we have Tirreno Adriatico for a week.
Yeah.
Get everyone warmed up, whatever. 2-week Giro d'Italia then starts Saturday, May 24th to Sunday, June 8th. 15 stages, 1 rest day.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
The day the Giro finishes, Paris-Nice for a week.
Whoa.
Oh, it doesn't overlap with Tirreno anymore. That's
Nope.
probably good. Yeah. Okay.
Then we have so that's the week after the Giro. The week after Paris is the Dauphiné. The week after the Dauphiné is the Tour de Suisse, finishing on Sunday, June 29th.
Do they have to do all these?
No. Sorry, I should have said that. Not every rider's doing all of these, right? You can still pick and choose whatever you want to do.
Okay.
They're all World Tour races. World Tour teams have to go. You can pick what you do.
And I see where you're going. The Tour de France is going to close out the season of the Grand
The
Tours.
3-week Tour de France begins on Saturday, July 12th and ends on Sunday, August 3rd. We still get Bastille Day.
Great.
Love it.
The final race of the year, the Road World Championships, Saturday, August 23rd to Sunday, September 31st. No, Sunday, August 31st. Don't know why I jumped a month. So by August 31st, bike racing is done until mid-January. So you get a nice amount of time off to deal with all the racing you've done.
I love it. I mean, that calendar genuinely sounds significantly better than what it is today.
It makes sense.
There's a lot of races that are currently raced that are not on that calendar.
Yes.
I think there is something you have to do with those. You put them in the second tier. The relegated teams race those ones.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. I'm
it
glad
also,
you don't
I mean,
hear any of it.
to anyone who's listening to this and thinking like, well, how can you move this race to then? They kind of, it's not done as much recently, but that's a pretty frequent occurrence in years past. Just like moving races around. Like that happened,
They can still happen. They're just not part of the marquee event. Like, I'm not saying they can't happen. It's just they're not.
Yeah. Oh, I more meant moving the classics or like moving the Grand Tours. Like the Vuelta used to be at a different time. That changed not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. So this is doable.
The final thing, then I'll shut up for the rest of the episode. We're gamifying environmental sustainability, right? So we saw, actually, this is a bit of news that's not just out of my brain. Beat Cycling, who are a Dutch continental squad run by Ties Zonneveld, who's a Dutch journalist. He posted on Instagram about how for the second year running that their team had got the train down to a Girona training camp, and it cost them a lot more money and was much more finicky to sort out. But they felt, because it was doable, they sort of felt morally obligated to do it. So what we're going to do is there's going to be a league table or like points that feeds into the main UCI racing points. And it's not going to be like a tiny little, like 500 Swiss francs, docked 50 UCI points way that it works now, where no one really cares. Everyone just pays a fine and pretends they're doing something. It'll be a substantial amount of points. That means that, the more green you are, the less stuff you use, the more green you travel, all feeds into that could boost you up. The points affect the Tour de France. So as well as qualifying, it also, the higher you finish, we talked about this on the podcast the other week, you get better hotels, better position in the race convoy, you get to choose your sign-on time. Really, we're going to make it so that it's incentivize it enough that you want to race well throughout the season to get as easy a Tour de France as you can.
So it's actually worth it.
So it's worth it. I think the hotels alone could probably sway. Like if you just publish what the hotels are at the start of the season and give it to all the riders, and then you can see like what happens if you finish 6th over 7th.
The polluter hotel versus the really green hotel.
Like Formula Un versus like a nice little, place like B&B run by like some nice grandparents or whatever. That's it. I'm done.
Follow up. So I first of all, love it. Love every bit of it. I think we should do it. 2 cycling. It's the future. How do you get riders to care about the narrative part? So like, is there like a Classics Cup winner and like an early season winner and then obviously a tour winner at the end? Is there something that runs through all 3 of those?
Yes, I think.
Is there a big prize somewhere?
There's big prizes for overall and the various like the 3 main competitions. I think you get a jersey to wear if you win it. I think you then get the bands on your jersey and kicks. I think weirdly people care about that more than the the actual jerseys and stuff themselves sometimes. But yeah, getting the riders to care. I think first of all we've got to focus on the fans and giving them the best product possible, and then after that comes the riders caring, because I think if the riders are never going to be into change as drastic as we would ever want, because it's hard. Their lives are hard enough already, but to be honest, while we respect the riders, the sport is about the fans, and I say that as a fan. But I think it's fair. I think it's valid. I think you can't argue any other way that you have to focus on
it is
the people who watch.
It's 100%. Yeah.